And hello, good people of the internet. It is I, Tommy Kelly, and this is, of course, Adventures in Woo Woo. So in this episode, we get the results of the Baphomet offering experiment that we started last week. As you can see, it was full up to the top. There is about half an inch or so of water disappeared, so that's some evaporation. And then we do some bibliomancy where we get the answers to your questions. Filth, disgusting. I'll report you to the authorities. Perverts. I know your game, all right. It's all filth. All of this is peppered with some magical vlog type material. Show you these wonderful tracking movements that I can do, in case you were thinking that I had hired someone to be my full-time cameraman. And I obviously haven't. And then I talk about vision boards and how you can make them. The finding of the representation, the pictorial representation, is a great thing to do, whether you know, the woo-woo is a thing you're interested in or not. Finally, if you're a Patreon level 2 or above, you get an extra half hour in which I talk about Liber Null, which is a foundational chaos magic book by Peter Carroll. Thou art me, Horus. I am thee, Horus. So let's do this. So last week we started an experiment, or set up the experiment, where we were going to see if water offered to a god or deity, in this case Baphomet, evaporated at a quicker rate or a slower rate or at a different rate than water not offered to anything. So it's a week now since we did that, so I'm going to have a look at the different containers and see if there's any differences. So this is the water that was offered to Baphomet. And as you can see, it was full up to the top. There is about half an inch or so of water disappeared, so that's some evaporation. And above on the other shelf, we have the water that was offered to no one. And it also has pretty much exactly the same amount of water evaporated. So what have we learned from this experiment? Well, what we've learned is that on this occasion, when I offered water to Baphomet and kept the same amount of water in a separate container and didn't offer it to anyone, they both evaporated at exactly the same rate. So, is it a conclusive study? I think not, but it's something I thought about was happening, and I tested it, and now it doesn't seem to be the issue. Seem to be the case. The next time what I will do it possibly with rum, because it's always usually with rum I notice it more. So that's my get out in this one, that it's water was the issue here, it's rum. But yeah, all of these things, all of these ideas that we have are definitely worth checking out and doing a quick kind of test on them, and then put all of your results into your magical diary. And then it's easier to keep track of these things and see which is working for you, which isn't working, what you need to augment, what you need to change, and what new ideas you need to have. So try out your own magical experiments. We'll continue doing some here at Adventures in Woo Woo over the weeks, but go and do your own things too. Go and prove or disprove your own beliefs. So today I'm going to do a bit of bibliomancy. And what is bibliomancy, I hear you ask? Well, it's essentially using a book as a divination tool. And there's a number of ways of doing it. Well, there's one kind of way of doing it, but there's slight variations on it. And that is to close your eyes, think of a question, and then open a page randomly, and your answer will be on it. And this is the way I came across it first. It was kind of got very big in New Age circles at one point, where there was loads of different books full of quotes and mottos and sayings that were used, specifically for this purpose. But the bibliomancy obviously comes from the Latin name for books, and people often get it mixed up with like Bibliomancy, or think if the biblio is a reference to the Bible, but of course it's not, it's just a reference to books in general. That said, the Bible is one of the most common books used for this type of divination. I don't like using the Bible, not because of any kind of anti-Christian feeling or any of that type of thing, but mostly because it's just, depending on the translation, I suppose, it's very stiff and very, I don't know, boring and very, there's no humor to it, certainly. And it's, it has that kind of biblical language to it, which doesn't really, I don't find it fun or interesting or helpful, or it's not aesthetically pleasing to me. The book I have used for a long while is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard, which is not really a book, it's a play, and it's a wonderful film as well if you ever get a chance to see it. It's Gary Oldman and Tim Roth are in it. Fantastic film. And why I like it as a divination tool is because it's sassy and it is just totally dialogue, so there's no kind of long-winded, liturgy or exposition or any of these type of things. The Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are basically two characters from Hamlet, but they're very bit players, they're small players in the Hamlet thing, in the Hamlet story itself. And this is kind of what they get up to between the scenes that they are in Hamlet. And it's quite good, it's very funny, it's very interesting, so it's a perfect tool, in my opinion, for divination. Now, of course, you can't just open it on a random page and get your answer because, as you can see, there's a lot, focus? There's a lot of dialogue on the page. So you have to do one extra step with something like this, or indeed with the Bible or most books that aren't specifically used, or designed as a bibliomancy type book. Now that you have to add your finger to fall on a certain line, which is how I do it. And very arbitrary where it lands, you just have to go how you feel, and you get your answer. Sometimes you get a great answer and it totally makes sense. A lot of the time you don't. And that's just the nature of these things. But I find that I get more relevant hits with this book than I do with any other book. But I would suggest you could use any book within reason. You probably shouldn't use like a dictionary or a thesaurus, or there's probably a host of books that you probably shouldn't use. You'll find your own kind of one, and each book will have its own personality. Ones will be quite boring, some will be quite funny, some will be very straight, some will be a bit weird. So try a number of different books and see if you you like the kind of results you're getting from it. You can also do it obviously with web pages, where you just, you could go to something like Stumble Upon, if that's still a thing, and go to a random web page, or random wiki page, or random YouTube video, or you can do it as well with going through TV channels or radio stations, and you just ask your question and you randomly keep clicking until you get some sort of answer. Robert Anton Wilson was very into that, or at least talked about it in a number of his books. So what I did earlier on is I asked people on the internet, the good people of the internet, to give me some questions that I would ask Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and see what they come up with. So we'll get straight into it. So Owen Wilson asks, how's Brexit going to work out? So, we call on you, great Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, please lend us your ear. Please use your world-famous divination powers and insight to give us answers to these questions that we ask. So, on to Owen's question. I looked just as ridiculous as you did, which is a fair enough response to the Brexit situation, to be honest. And just the next line is, consistency is all I ask, which seems equally relevant. So, Tanya, I'm so not going to be able to pronounce people's names. I should pronounce them in the most broadest Irish accent that I can. Tanya Zalaut. Give me some advice in my work as an artist. Not a bit of it. So there's no answer from this. Although the next line from on it is, that's the idea, are you ready? So are you ready to be an artist? Have you got your ideas together? Are you, are you on track? Are you prepared? Davey Cadavo, how can I get more Patreon subs? Well, one way you can get it is by getting people to look at the show notes of this video, and you will see a link to his Patreon, and you can go check it out. So, we can't look each other in the face. You don't understand the humiliation of it. To be tricked out of the single assumption what makes our existence viable, that somebody is watching. So from that would suggest to me that you have to get the word out. You have to get people to know about it and to,
you know, that whole thing of that if no one knows about it, no one's going to join up. So get the word out, try and get the spread, try and get people. And the watching thing, I suppose, try making more YouTube videos or Facebook videos. Get something where people will be watching it. George Sulia, how can I improve my luck? In that case, the origin. Trace it to its source and it might give us a rough idea of the way we came in. So that's a good answer. That would say that to improve your luck, you must look at your past, George. You must see the type of traits that you have or the kind of past experiences that have led you to believe that you don't have good luck or put you in a situation now where you have no good luck. And once you get that sorted, once you get the origin of it sorted, then you will be in a situation to change your luck for the better. So there you go, good advice. Jackson October. What should I do about the co-worker I think is undermining me? Ooh, nasty co-worker. I'll give you a wave. So that would suggest to me what you've been told there is to be friendly to them, to be courteous to them. Don't treat them as an enemy, treat them as a friend. And then it will either uncover that you are indeed being undermined by this person, or you will gain a new ally and it will no longer be the situation. Sage counsel. Melissa Cabine, how can I improve my living situation? Again, sorry about the terrible pronunciation of everyone's names. It's an affliction I have. It's not going to change anytime soon. So how can she improve her living situation? Filth, disgusting. I'll report you to the authorities. Perverts. I know your game all right. It's all filth. So if you're asking about your living situation and it's all about filth and you know, that kind of thing, I would suggest that to improve your living situation, you should clean your room, clean up around you, try to maybe renovate if you can, if you know, that's obviously expensive, but try to do something to bring your own kind of mark to it, or your own kind of feel to it, your own kind of presence to it. So make it your own, rather than living in whatever situation, you know, you're living in. Or clear out people, or clear out, if there is indeed perverts living out in your house, God forbid, you know, clear out the people, clear out the energy, get rid of the filth that is knocking around. Mightn't be literal filth, it might be more metaphoric. Okay. Bet Wells, will the huge global disparity of wealth be rebalanced fairly? Before I even go to the oracle, I would suggest that probably not anytime soon, but let's see what the two boys have to say about it. I like the sound of that. What do you think he means by remembrance? So I like the sound of it, but what do you think it means? How do you think it would work? Would it actually, remembrance, would it actually work out well? Possibly. Is it something that we really want? I assume it is. What about the things that are around it? He doesn't forget his friends. So that would suggest that maybe you should start by, if that's something that you want to work on, start closer to home, tend to the part of the garden that you can reach. So try to rebalance it in your own community first, rather than the world, in your own friend circle and your own community. Shawnee Love, how would you prepare a tome to make it magically suitable for bibliomancy? Possibly more question about bibliomancy than for bibliomancy, but we'll see what the two boys have to say. It's going to be chaos on the night. Keep back, we're spectators. So I would say that's suggesting that to have something that will give you a wide gamut of answers, that is not just on one subject, something that is chaos inspired, that there's a lot going on, that you can take a lot from, rather than it being very, like, it's not, you know, a maths book wouldn't be good, but something, an encyclopedia would probably be good because it's full of different ideas, full of chaos, full of different thoughts and expressions. But if it's a question to me about bibliomancy, as I said before, just something that feels good to you, gives you good answers. Test a few until you find out. But Most books should work for you in some way. Spud Murphy, good man Spud. You should check out his podcast as well as the Comedy Cast and his YouTube channel, all of which will be in the show notes. What should I name my horse? Also, will I ever own a horse? These are, profound questions and questions that we do need to know the answers to. Usurpation, then. I don't know what that word means, but it's Usurpation. That is now the name of your horse. And whatever it means might be related to whether you'll actually get a horse or not. Christina Massotti. Do the books you pull from matter? Again, probably a question more about bibliomancy than for bibliomancy, but we'll see how it goes. Do they matter? It's a terrible thought. So take from that what you want. Tim Caraxo. I'm never quite sure how to pronounce your name, Tim, so I'll do it in my most broadest Irish accent I can. Tim Caraxo. Is Bibliomancy real? Well, of course it is. But let's see. It's all right. I'm demonstrating the misuse of free speech, which is really what you're doing, Tim, with your smart question. Harold Hermit, am I on track? To be commanded. So, are you on the right track? To be commanded probably would suggest that you need to take a bit more of the reins of your life into your own hands. And possibly commanded. To be commanded, that means that you're under someone else's command presently. And so that's something you should look at. But I'm going to do another one on that because I think there's more to that. I'm telling you, it's all stopping to a debt. It's boating to a depth, stepping to a head. It's all heading to a dead stop. Interesting. But your question is, am I on track? That would suggest, and don't take this, don't take all of this advice as gospel, that no, you're not. That where you're heading is to a dead stop. Which, given your circumstances, might be what you want. It might be coming to the end of certain things that you want the end of. And the end of this particular point in your life and going on to new things. So I might be bringing too much negativity thinking with that way. But the great Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are saying that currently your track is heading to a dead stop. And our final question is from Shannon Barbaglia. Do we live in a simulation? Do we live in a simulation? The only beginning is birth, and the only end is death. If you can't count on that, what can you count on? I think that's a very wise answer to that question. Do we live in a simulation? It's like looking at the nature of death and birth and what this world really is. So I think the answer to that would be, So that's kind of it. That's how it works. Did you enjoy this session, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern? And we'll soon be home and dry and high and dry. So possibly want to get it over with. Would you like to do this again for people if we get more questions and some sort of reoccurring part of the show? My honoured Lord. So they would be honoured to do it. Chris Sedgwick asks, what is your take on the three occult models, spirit, energy and psychological when it comes to getting results from bibliomancy? I would certainly say that I would come to it from a kind of psychological model in the fact that, as you've seen, I will take the things I get from the bibliomancy as a kind of a start to get my brain thinking about what kind of a different angle on the question asked. But then there was one or two that's, were dead on the money, like the one about am I on track? No, it's a dead stop. And it seems a bit woo in that sense. But again, you could say it's just, it's a coincidence. But we know, of course, there's no such thing as coincidences. Energy-wise, well, there's the energy of the book itself that you're using. And again, depends on what way you want to define energy. There's certainly a spirit and a personality to this particular book and other books, which I don't find in certain other books. So, you know, from an energetic level, but I doubt that's the question you're kind of asking, the energetic level in that way. I mostly come from a psychological model when it comes to magic, with being open to all the rest, and for long I was in an energetic model of magic, so it's something that switches over, and it's currently just the phase I'm in now. So my answer would be that bibliomancy and all divination is a psychological tool that allows you to see things from different angles, from different perspectives, from a different archetypal place or ideas, with wholly welcoming it and open to all the woo that comes with it, because it does seem to be strange even from a psychological model. But I have a very high opinion of the psychological model. I don't think it disenchants it in any way. I think it enchants it even further than any of the other models. Can you define fictional characters? Absolutely. Why can't you? You know, absolutely, as you have seen. I hate to think there are people out there that think they're actually summoning Cthulhu. Why do you hate that? What's wrong with summoning Cthulhu over any other character? Do you think because he's a fiction character or he's less real, and therefore that if you're summoning something that's actually real over something else, define real, define, you know, or show me how, like, what do you mean by, in a sense, this is reading a lot into your question, but like, are the demons of the Goetia real or are they fiction? You know, it all depends on what way you want to look at it and all that kind of thing. I don't think fiction is inherently less effective or less useful than non-fiction. Is Cthulhu real? Oh, he's very real, but in a fictional sense. He's like the idea of, like, say, Spider-Man, another fiction character, is probably more real than most of us because he will outlive us. He was there before I was born. He's more widely known. He's an idea that possibly a high percentage of the world population knows. So is he not real? And can he not be called upon as an archetype or summoned to help with divination? I say yes. I'm not a huge fan of working with fictional characters. I don't find it that powerful or useful for me, but I'm definitely not opposed to it. Or using Cthulhu in any form of divination, but whatever. Well, to each their own, and if it's something that you don't enjoy or find useful or pleasing, you know, certainly, of course, you're under no obligation to do it, but don't poo-poo other people or put down other people for whatever they find useful and helpful. If someone working in the Cthulhu mythos as a chaos magician finds that powerful and gets him more of the things he wants, or gets her less of the things she doesn't want, is part of her or his or her ascension, or gives them insights, what's the problem? You know, that's it, just because it's fiction with bunny ears. So that is bibliomancy, and if it's something you're into, I will do again, but what I would probably do is ask more questions and do different type of divinations, possibly pendulums, magic 8-ball, that kind of stuff, rather than just sticking to the one thing. But I do enjoy bibliomancy. It's the divination system that I use most, even more than 47s, because it's just handy to grab the thing off the shelf and get a quick answer, a quick thing. I don't take it completely seriously, but I don't take magic in general completely seriously, in the sense of that I used to get very caught up on divination and the answers I would get, and if I didn't get the answers I want, I would get quite annoyed or depressed about, you know, things. I remember going to a psychic years ago and being told that something that I wanted to happen wasn't going to happen, and I got quite down and defeated out of it. And I feel that defeated feeling, in a sense, added to the thing not actually coming out, because I was defeated before I even tried in many ways. So while I say I don't take it that seriously, what I mean, I'm very serious about it, but I don't take it as written in stone, or that it's a guarantee, because no matter what divination is, whatever level of woo you want to go with it, whether it's psychological or full woo, it's only reading you in the moment, and it's only reading situations as it is now, and the fact that the knowledge of you knowing about it, that you have done the divination, immediately changes the future or the outcome. Unless, of course, it's all predestined and there's no choices and you're only here to discover why you made those choices, as is said in the Matrix and a number of other places. So advice for divination in general is take it as serious as you want, but don't bet your life on it. Don't get depressed if it's not the answer, and don't let it stop you doing things that you want to do. For instance, that thing, am I on track? No, this is going to lead to a dead end. Don't stop doing something just because you did a divination for it. If you were reading it, depending on your mood, you might read it more negatively than you would if you're in a good mood, and it's very hard to read a divination for yourself anyway because you're too close to the entire situation. So be serious about it, but don't take the answers too seriously. Only ever as guides, only ever as something that is a second opinion, a different perspective. So that's Bibliomancy, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I've got one of these newfangled toys, the DJI Pocket Osmo, or Osmo Pocket. It's basically a small little camera that has a gimbal on it, and gimbal just basically is a thing that keeps your footage stable, or if you're moving around and walking about it keeps the footage kind of on the level so that it doesn't look like it's been handheld or whatever. Now, obviously they're not perfect or anything, but they are far better than just walking around with, say, a DSLR or even your phone. And they're better in theory than using like a stabilizer on an app or in a program like Premiere or DaVinci Resolve, which is what I use. But the cool thing about it, and apart from all this kind of gimbal end of it, is that it does a tracking type thing. So it is right now, it's focused on my face, and so if I move, see, it follows with me. And it's kind of like having your own personal cameraman without having to deal with other people in the room with you. So as I move around and talk, you can see that it's perfectly tracking to my face, and in theory my face should never go out of focus and should never be out of shot, and there's a pretty wide kind of field of view on it, so that's pretty cool. I got it mostly because I wanted to do outside vlogging that didn't involve having a huge DSLR or it's a bulky thing that was very obvious, and to see if that would make it easier for me to be less self-conscious about what I'm doing. And it's like this, it's smaller than your hand. So like no one is going to notice it if you're walking down, and it's more inconspicuous than even a phone, because if you're like holding up a phone to yourself, people know you're filming yourself, where this is kind of doesn't look like a phone, doesn't look like a video camera, and could maybe even be kind of confused with or like a vape pen or something like that. It kind of has that kind of feel to it. So it's great. I'm absolutely delighted with it. I used it last night when I was filming for the Liber Null study notes, and I was using it as the second camera to kind of second angle black and white thing. But the actual quality of it, because it shoots in 4K, was amazing, and it was almost nearly better than the actual DSLR that I had set up as my main camera. It does have less depth of field to it, even though it's an f2, which it should have plenty of depth of field, but it's kind of, because of the way it focuses and has a small sensor, it kind of keeps everything in focus rather than giving you that kind of bokeh or blurry background that you will get with a DSLR. But the advantage you have then is that you were always in focus. One of the things that really annoyed me or frustrated me with the kind of DSLR setup, because I have a Nikon, which are terrible with autofocus, is that the autofocus continually lets you down and does that hunting thing, and it just looks terrible when you're playing back the video. So this should be a constant focus and a constant track, and possibly could turn into my #1 camera over the DSLR. But you're not getting the kind of filmic look to it as much as you would with, with the DSLR. So anyway, I just wanted to test it out and show you these wonderful tracking movements that I can do. And in case you were thinking that I had hired someone to be my full-time cameraman, and I obviously haven't. I just bought a camera.
Hey there, adventurers. My name is Kevin. I'm from the YouTube channel Diary of a Chubby Yogi. It's all about my exploration and my diary, really, of my adventures into the world of yoga. We're going to be dealing with everything from philosophy to the physical practice, pranayama to the path to enlightenment. It's all about making things accessible and demystifying a lot of the bullshit that goes with the world of yoga. In the Eastern world, it's a very mystical and a very disassociated thing from our Western minds in the Western world that's all clad up in lycra. Basically, I want to try and bridge that path and find our little happy medium where we can find yoga and we can find a path to enlightenment in this modern life. That's probably my 60 seconds up, so peace out, catch you guys around.
One thing I've started noticing that I'm doing when I'm recording these vlogs or when I put the camera on is that I forget to breathe. It's really weird. I originally noticed it when I was trying to do a walk and talk yesterday down the railway line, and I noticed that I was out of breath. I was going, oh my god, I'm way less fit than I assumed I was, and which is quite, disconcerting and annoying. But then later on, when I was sitting down and I was also doing it, I was noticing that I still had this out of breath kind of feeling, and that after like a paragraph of talk, I was like, whew, and had to rebreathe. And I started becoming mindful of it when I was doing the next bit. And what was happening is that I was going sentence without stopping to breathe in between. And I think it's kind of an anxious thing or a stress-related thing in that I'm trying to, not make mistakes, be as clear as possible, not fumble over my words and that kind of thing. And it just is like, and not breathing. So something I really have to work on, because I'm sure it's not going to do my health particularly any good, and it's not going to improve my diction or my articulation. To you people who have to listen to me, if I forget to breathe. But it's an interesting thing nonetheless, because like how important our breath is, and it's probably then something I'm doing in other areas of my life when I'm anxious and stressed or under pressure, is I'm not breathing, and so it's something I have to become very mindful of. So I'm looking forward, in one sense, to see where I'm doing that and where I can improve in that. And glad that vlogging has brought this to the surface for me to, work out and fix. So one of my magical goals for the week was to set up a new vision board. And a vision board, for those who don't know, is basically a collection of pictorial representations of your goals, your dreams, your desires, the things you want to manifest in your life. And it's a very simple process. You basically get like a cork board or a notice board, or find some space on your wall, or you can get a scrapbook and then fill it with images that represent the things you want. Some of these can be quite literal in that if you want a particular garden shed, you will put a picture of that garden shed. But it can get a bit more kind of harder to come up with pictures for, say, things like confidence or happiness or certain different things like that, or a particular job you want that there isn't an obvious picture for. And with these, you can just use your imagination and your creativity. Or if there's a particular confident actor or famous person or celebrity or something that you like, then you could use an image that represents, so if you think that Tom Hardy is particularly kind of the epitome of confidence or, good looking or whatever it is that you want to have, then you can use him as a representation of your of that need or that desire or that want. Again, like I said, if they're more obvious, then just use the actual picture of the thing you want. I find them very effective, and they're one of the things that work best for me that I've used over the years. Now, I'm not a master at it, but my wife is really good at it, down to even getting the actual things in the photos that she wanted. So it was a job she wanted a couple of years ago, a good while back now, and she put up on her vision board a picture of a room that represented the job that she wanted. And when she got the job, the floor that was in the room where the job was to have was the exact same floor that was in the photo that she had put on her vision board, which was very cool. But she's very good at the manifesting thing in general anyway, much better than I am. So for this vision board, I also wanted to have it a bit more than just a kind of a cork board on a wall. I wanted to give it a bit kind of a magic touch, a bit of creativity, a bit of art to it, because I find that kind of aesthetic makes it feel more magic to me. And being a chaos magician, the feel and the emotion behind it is as important as, the actual ritualistic behavior that you do, or the actual nuts and bolts or ingredients of the ritual you're doing. So for my vision board, what I have, my walls are painted dark grey. It looks black, but it's actually dark grey. I'm not a goth, although, quite close to it. And I also spray painted the corkboard black as well, just because I like black and I like dark things. And then around it, I put a number of white stars, which I thought would offset the black and kind of give it that kind of wizardy, magical type feel to it. And I'm really happy with how it came out. And of course, I added the devil horns just because I find them aesthetically pleasing, and I like to have a bit of humor injected into all the things I do, because it just makes me feel like the more serious you are about these things, the less fun it is, and for me anyway, the less successful it is. I think you can kind of block a lot of your magic by being over serious about it, or being very solemn or very, very serious about it. So if you've never done a vision board before, I suggest that you try them out. If nothing else, if you don't believe in the woo-woo-ness of it at all, it's a great way of focusing what you want, focusing on the things, on your targets, on your goals, actually thinking about them, condensing them, and finding a representation. The finding of the representation, the pictorial representation, is a great thing to do, whether the woo-woo is a thing you're interested in or not, because it gets you to really focus on what you want. And for a lot of people, myself included, the question of what do you want is a very hard question, because do you really know what you want? And until you sit down and actually work it all out, you will discover that you probably have very vague notions about what you want out of life. Like, I want to be happy, or well, what is going to make you happy, or I want a certain job. Really, get down to it and see what it is. So getting these kind of pictorial representations is great in that regard. I personally think there's a bit of woo to it as well, and more than just goal settings, doing things like vision boards, or making these things a bit more ritualistic, seem to make them more successful to me. But I'd be very interested in hearing what you think about vision boards, your successes, your failures, or send me your photos of your vision board if you want. I know people can be very private about these things, and I'm not too sure I would show photos of my vision board publicly either, but up to you. If you have a particularly cool one that you'd like to show off, do send it on. And just give me, tell me what you think about vision boards and your experiences. So I just wanted to give a quick mention to the Discord server that I set up for Adventures in Woo Woo a couple of weeks ago. If you don't know what a Discord server is, it's essentially just a chat room that also has voice chat enabled on it, so like you have VoIP on it as well. It was originally used by gamers, it was set up by gamers, and all the kind of the aesthetics and the skin around it is gamer centric. But a lot of other communities have started using it as a kind of a hub or a place outside of Facebook or Twitter or your other kind of social medias for people to gather and have chats about certain topics. So in this one, in the Adventures in Woo Woo, it's obviously kind of magic, occult, woo-woo centered. But there's channels that are also just free for all, or not necessarily free for all, but talk about whatever you want. It's just general channels. There's also a couple of things in it that are really cool. There's a couple of bots that one in particular allows you to have daily horoscopes, daily astrology, tarot readings, rune readings, which is quite cool. You just have to type in a little message and it sends it to you, which is quite cool. But overall, I'm finding it very helpful, and it's a lovely community, very similar to the Facebook community we have for the 40 Servants, where everyone is really nice to each other and no one really tolerates any kind of bullshit. And the only one rule for all groups that I kind of set up, our communities, is don't be a dick. And other than that, do as you please, or do as thou wilt. So check it out if you think that's something that you'd be interested in. I know a lot of people are always looking for a way off Facebook, but still to retain the kind of community that they have in Facebook, that go, I'd love to get off Facebook because of all of these people, but I really like these groups or whatever. So Discord is one way of doing it, and I invite you to come join the server that's set up. The link will be in the show description. I'm sure at some stage in the future Discord will become as evil as the other social medias, but for right now it's a very cool space that we're kind of free to do as we will in it, so check it out. So that was another episode of Adventures in Woo Woo. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for having a watch. Even if you didn't enjoy it, at least you tried, and that's all that can be expected of anyone or hoped for. So if you want to know more about me, or you want to see more episodes, or you want to check out the old podcasts, or you want to know how to support me so I continue this work, or anything that you could possibly want to know, including social media links and all of those things, you can go to adventuresinwoowoo.com, and that'll bring you to the page that has all of those links. So until next week, good people of the internet, have a wonderful week, and may your week be extra special. May you get a surprise from nowhere. May you get a wink and a nod from the universe to let you know that the universe is actively working to make your life better and for you to get more of what you want and less of what you don't want. So good people of the internet, be well.